Hey, payday. Canelo Alvarez has bulked up, moving up in weight, and you want to see it? No problem.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Let me jump right into the content. The pictures you see on the screen are Canelo Alvarez. Payday, you want payday? I know that. He's moving up in weight. This is his second fight in the light heavyweight division. First fight, I don't know about that. It looks sus to me. He fought Sergey Kovalev. That was his first fight at light heavyweight. Something looked incredibly off about that fight. Needless to say, even though I believe that fight looked FAF, Canelo won, and he got a knockout. But I still believe Canelo did not look great at that particular weight. He just simply put, he looked slower, he looked lethargic. Now he's moving up and fighting a more in prime guy, even though he's not Dmitry Bivol, who's also Russian and also a style that Canelo seems to like. Eastern European style, but he's a different fighter than Kovalev, and he's a bit fresher. So, this could be interesting because, again, I don't think that Canelo looked stupendous through much of the Kovalev fight. For one, neither did Kovalev, but Kovalev's size, power, and him popping out a lazy jab gave Canelo difficulty until it didn't, when Canelo knocked him out. And Canelo looked slower, he looked more lethargic and things like that. So with these new pictures coming out, it does make me a bit more curious because a lot of fans are wondering. I don't take away from Canelo's skill. The man has been fighting since age 15 and he's made his shekels in the sport of boxing, which is a very difficult spot and a difficult sport. You have Canelo Alvarez, who became undisputed at 168, but some people are questioning, will Canelo be made to pay with all these fights that some people would even say cherry picking, and these fights that he's strategically picking, will somebody be able to stop that reign? And also Canelo fidgeting and tinkering with his weight, will Canelo be forced to pay? Because Dmitry Bivol is crafty. I don't think he's coming off great performances, but he's naturally bigger than Canelo Alvarez. And at his best, when he's on, he does have some skill and a tricky style. Where Canelo has the advantage is big fight experience. Dmitry Bivol has never fought at the level Canelo's fought. Canelo's been involved in some blockbuster fights in the last 10 years with Floyd Mayweather, big fights with Austin Trout, guys like Erickson Lubin. He got fights with Triple G. Yeah, guys have no big drama, right? Two with Triple G. They're trying to do a third one, even though Triple G's 40, right? Big fights with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., etc. So at the end of the day, Canelo, he should be the favorite. He has a lot of advantages. The biggest thing is, if you look at his shape, it does look like he's losing some muscle mass, going up in weight. Will that affect his speed? Will his power carry up? Again, we don't have as much of a gauge on Canelo at 175 because this is only his second fight there. So slowly but surely, there is some level of intrigue in the Dmitry Bivol fight. I really hope that it proves to be just doesn't end in any kind of controversy, because let's keep it real. Canelo fights, there's a lot where people are like, oh, the scorecard was really off. And that's one of my worries for Dmitry Bivol is anytime Canelo fights, this is what the fighter is kind of up against. If you can't knock him out, if you can't dominate him like Floyd Mayweather did, even Floyd Mayweather, even though he dominated Canelo Alvarez, one judge, CJ Ross, said that the fight was a draw. Huh? How was that fight a draw in anybody's mind? Luckily for boxing, she was removed and like forced to retire after that, abhorrent scorecard. Like, it was just horrible. There's no one that can like realistically have watched Floyd versus Canelo and scored it for Canelo or a draw or even close. Floyd arguably won every single round, and boxing keeps shooting itself in the foot, and it does these things which doesn't produce new fans, because if anything, people get annoyed and angry, like, man, this again, another bad scorecard. And a lot of people felt that way even with the Triple G fight. They felt it wasn't a draw. I personally thought Triple G won the first fight, and I was there live. In the last 30 days, I looked at my YouTube analytics, and it showed me 50% of the people that consume my content in the month of March were subscribed. Thank you. The other 50% of those people that consume my content, Boxingego content, had not subscribed to the channel. Maybe you forgot. Maybe YouTube unsubscribed you. Maybe you didn't know it was important or thought you did it or read it. But either way, this is your reminder. Subscribe to the channel for fire boxing content. If you want your boxing news, you want some opinions, and a great community for boxing, the sweet science, the best sport in the world, then subscribe. Anywho, back to Canelo. Slowly but surely, I'm developing some intrigue with this fight, just because I've always said this. Dimitri Bivol is not a bad fighter. The biggest thing is Canelo's strategic. So Bivol's fought on co-features, and he hasn't really been main eventing, and he hasn't really looked sensational. See, a lot of the Canelo Chupapi Moñeño, the Canelo radical fans, the man fans, they just love everything that Canelo does. They're not objective. They're not going to give fair criticism when needed. It's just Canelo. If you don't say something that they want to hear about Canelo, then you're public enemy number one. I don't operate like that. I give everyone a fair shake. Canelo, he's a brilliant fighter, but at the end of the day, he does do these strategic moves like, hey, let me try to fight Golovkin, not when it counts, or not in an immediate third fight, but when he's 40 years old and he's looked bad in some of his fights like Sergey Derevyanchenko. It is what it is, but at the end of the day, I'm curious because Canelo, to me, it looks like he did lose some of his muscle mass by bulking up. And at some point, maybe he'll be made to pay for that, and Canelo, he hasn't moved up. He kind of rapidly moved up. Like, I personally think there was great fights for him at 160 still. Guys like Hint, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, guys like Jermall Charlo, and then he kept moving up. Typically, moving up in weight is a process, and you want to do it little by little and acclimate and stuff. Canelo's flexing his weight a lot to the point where he's talking about moving to cruiserweight and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting because unless a fighter is on something, it's really hard to maintain all your power, all your speed, etc. Even if you maintain and you still have cracks in a new weight division, the guys that you're fighting are naturally bigger, so they may be able to absorb more punishment and take your shots better than smaller guys. It's just common sense. So it'll be interesting because Canelo, he kind of rapidly moved through the weight classes, and to me that's a bit of a disrespect to the weight classes when you just move up. Sure, I think he could beat guys like MacBook Air. Did we get him? It does smell like ish, doesn't it? Try again, Murasaka, because those guys are limited with skills. But I firmly believe that Canelo, he wouldn't fight nobody that I rate like Usyk when he was undisputed. Because Usyk even said he'll go back down to cruiserweight for Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo's team said, no, that's ridiculous. You're crazy. Yeah. So why do you want to move up to cruiserweight to fight MacBook Air, but you won't fight Usyk? And he's a brilliant, great fighter. So that shows you what time it is. But again, a lot of the radical man fans, the Canelo fans, they're not fans of boxing. They're fans of one fighter. They don't understand boxing. In the words of Roger Mayweather, most don't know ish about boxing. They showing don't. Rest in peace to Roger Mayweather. And that's really what it is. There's a lot of people that they think Canelo is invincible. I've heard people say that Canelo can move to heavyweight. Man, if Canelo moved to heavyweight and fought somebody that I rate, he'll get slaughtered. And the funny thing is, me saying that is too brash for some people. So they'll cry, and the Chupapi Muñeños will will say that I'm hating and things like that. But if I wanted to hate on Canelo, I would hate on Canelo. I wouldn't even want to see him at heavyweight because I know what would happen if he fought someone that was legitimate. So I'm not wishing that he goes to heavyweight. I'm just merely pointing out the fact that you have unrealistic Canelo fans who disrespect the sport of boxing with their commentary because they're not even remotely realistic. I don't want Canelo. I don't even really need to see him at cruiserweight. I think there's enough great fights like David Benavidez and Charlo in or around his current divisions. So don't get that misconstrued. I don't want to see him fight at cruiserweight and all this stuff. But again, you got Canelo fans who they think he can do anything and he can go beat Tyson Fury and things like that. You would have Canelo Alvarez, put it this way, you have to show me that because I don't see that. And I'm not sleeping on his skill. I think he's a skilled fighter. But look at Canelo's toughest fights. He didn't just blow guys out the water. Triple G, some people thought Triple G won both fights. Floyd Mayweather, he handedly lost all 12 rounds. Erislandy Lara, pick'em fight. Austin Trout, some people felt Trout even won or was close to winning before the open scoring, blah, 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 right? So we'll see. You know, first step is Dimitri Bivol, and that could be a dangerous fight if Dimitri Bivol, the naturally bigger man, looks better than if he's in prime form and stuff and taking it serious. It could be a difficult fight because I don't think Canelo and the Kovalev fight looks sensational. Let me know how I did in this video. Ego Weight Watchers, Canelo, his size, his weight, he's bulking up. Looks a bit, you know, like he lost some muscle mass, still in shape. And he's a gym rat, so I think he's still training hard. Let me know how I did, Ego Weight Watchers, aka Ill. In him out.
Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.